Welcome everyone to a very hot Shibuya, Tokyo Shibuya. Very, very hot today, 36 degrees, but I thought we'd come outside because I've been spending a whole bunch of time in the studio working away. But today we are celebrating 300,000 subscribers over on YouTube. I don't usually worry about the numbers too much, but thank you very much for supporting the channel all of these years. So I asked you guys to ask me questions over on YouTube, Instagram, and on Threads. And we're gonna walk around Shibuya today answering those questions because I need to get my steps in. So let's get to it. All right, the first question is, I'm a product photographer in the UK just starting out. I'm struggling to find my first client and have had a few rejections because small businesses don't have the budget for my services. What is your advice for navigating this? Well, first and foremost, I mean, you've got to start somewhere. Everyone's got to start somewhere, right? And so you probably even want to do your first few jobs for free, just so that you can start building up a portfolio and you can have something to show potential clients, new clients, all of your work. You know, you need something to impress people to be able to sell your services to begin with. So if you're having issues with selling your services and people aren't giving you the money that you want, perhaps look at your portfolio again and try to determine where it is exactly that people are starting to fall off. What portions of your portfolio aren't impressing as much as they should be, so that you can then convert those higher paying customers. Over time, if you start slow and you start low, start for free and then, maybe $50 or $100 moving up and up and up and up, and go slowly in that way, you can start to build a bigger, more impressive portfolio over time. Yes, I know it takes a long time, but good things don't come quickly, of course. But build it up over time, and then you'll start to, over the course of many years, have a selection of the higher paying customers, and then you can start to attract more of the customers that you're trying to look for. All right, this next one is a little bit of a long one. Hi Pat, I'd like to know how you change things up when photography has become more or less of routine work. I do street photography in Japan, and while I do try looking for new compositions or using different focal lengths in each session, I find myself ending up with shots that repeat similar visual elements when editing. I'd love to get some advice from you if you've ever been through similar experiences. Thank you. Yeah, look, I mean, some people like to actually call that style. That is the basis of your style, the things that you return to, and I've talked about this on previous videos, but the things that you return to over and over again are by definition your style, right? And so rather than them being things that feel stale or that aren't optimal perhaps, embrace them, have them as your core pillars, have those compositional techniques, those visual patterns as your core pillars of how you shoot things, and then expand those core pillars over time. You can deliberately get out there and work on specific visual patterns just by shooting that one thing for a very long period of time, and only that one thing, just so that you can start to train your vision, start to train your photographic eye to be able to add them to your toolkit and build your style over time. In terms of how I approach this, I think for me, I've done photography and tried to learn photography for a very long time. So, I've been through all of these different cycles where I'm specifically learning one component, one visual pattern of photography at a time. And I've done it so many times across many different deliberate weeks, deliberate practice, many different months of the same thing over and over and over again. But you just got to stick at it. And then when you end up going to different locations, or you put yourself in a situation that is a little bit novel, so say you are shooting daytime stuff or hard light stuff most of the time, if you suddenly try a nighttime shoot that's raining, literally complete 180 of what you were previously doing, then you kind of get to test your skill set. You kind of get to test your current level of style and how that fits into then a new context as well. So I don't try to reframe it a little bit. Instead of it being stale or stagnant or, not really moving, think of it as building upon things. I hope that helps. All right, the next question is, do you still panic and hesitate about lens choice and or composition now, even as a pro? No. And that's not a flex or anything. It's just that, when you've been through enough scenarios over time and you've expanded your lens choice quite a lot to, all of the focal lengths really, over time you just have been in so many situations that are very similar, and you know exactly what to do. You know exactly what lenses to use, what kind of shots you want, what kind of setup achieves those shots. And so it's just practice, man. It's a lot of practice, a lot of getting used to the things that you have and making the most out of what you've got. And so, no, I mean, look forward to it. As a pro, I can confidently say, if you're an amateur or an intermediate photographer, eventually you can look forward to the scenario where you approach a scene, you know exactly what you're going to do, exactly how to shoot it, exactly what gear you need and how much time and what light and what season and all that kind of stuff, like immediately when you arrive at a location. So yeah, it's just practice. The next question is, what is the role of the photographer in capturing reality versus capturing art? Great question. It's also very difficult to answer because people's definition of what a photographer is and even what art is different. I mean, the kind of cop-out answer is whatever you want it to be, because photography ultimately and art ultimately is for your own enjoyment, for your own purpose, right? Like, so you create your own reasons for doing those things. If you want a little bit more of a tactical answer of what I personally think on the issue, perhaps for me, reality, well, let me rephrase this. Perhaps it's more that the question shouldn't be reality versus art. The question might be rephrased in the same way of what is the role of the photographer in capturing art? Because reality, especially for me in street photography and stuff like that, often is my art. Right? It often is one and the same thing, not mutually exclusive. And I think it's really healthy for me as a street photographer to think of it like that, rather than, a strong division between when am I only capturing things for me and when am I deliberately making things for others in terms of art. I think it's both. And I think for me, that is the way that I approach most of my photography anyway. I was speaking to my editor today and we were talking about art and documenting things and all of the kind of moral dilemmas people have around how do you kind of delineate between art and content and just like shooting for yourself. And I was telling him that for me, oftentimes my process of photography is one that is I'm just shooting the same way regardless of what the output is. Whether I share that as something on social media or I share that as a video or whatever, ultimately I'm approaching it the same way. I'm always taking photos for me. I'm always taking photos to document the space that I'm in or with a particular objective, and it's always done in the same way. So it's always done in the same styles that I have and all of that kind of stuff. And then whether or not I decide to share it afterwards is dependent on the project. So whether or not I'm deliberately shooting for a project or deliberately shooting for a campaign or YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be, the shoot process is the same because my art, well, I want my art to be the same. And so for me, reality, this is a very long-winded way to say art and reality for me can be the same thing. And so the role is really about just showing up and honing and refining your skills so that when you are ready to document reality or document art, if you want to see it in such a clear delineation, then you are ready to approach it in the best way possible. You have the skills to do so. You have the visual language to be able to communicate properly through your imagery. Alrighty, so the next one is, how has moving to Japan affected your outlook, photography, and overall creative process? I would say right now, I've been here for about a year. My visa is coming up again, and it's taken me this long to really get into the swing of things, unfortunately. In terms of creative process and outlook and all that kind of stuff, it's taken a toll. It's been very, very difficult for me to get up to speed and to just get my life in order so that I can focus on my creativity again. But now I'm finally getting there. I'm finally getting into the groove. I'm feeling good. Creativity for me is coming really hard and fast, which is amazing. And I've got an editor on board at the moment for the YouTube, and so I have that level of responsibility, that level of creative professionalism that is required to show up for someone else when you have someone else on your team. As well as being in Japan now, I'm finally exploring and getting out there and getting into like the different pockets of Japan that I haven't been to yet. Although now it is summer, so all I want to do is just stay at home or stay in the office and like not go anywhere because it's just damn hot. But you get the point. Right now, I'm actually feeling really, really good. All right, this is getting really hot and I am sweating everywhere. Holy. Okay, next question is, how do you get out of a creative slump, or how to prevent one from occurring? I got a lot of these questions recently on this whole Q&A thing. Iterations of being stuck with motivation and not really having creative drive and being in a low point in your creative career and creative slump like this one. I've gotten a lot of that. So it was very clear that me just actually having come out of one, that many other people are also in this kind of situation at the moment. So, I have nothing but empathy for all of you guys. It is difficult, but it also is a part of the process. And, I say this a lot, but I've been a creative for well over 2 decades now. And I'll tell you straight up that creative slumps are part of the process. It's like anything else, right? Your happiness is only really valuable when you measure it against the sadness in your life, right? The highs are only as good as the lows. You can't be high all the time. And especially in creativity, you can't expect to be, creative juices running all of the time, 24/7, every single day. You have to give it some time to just flatten out, rest, recover, regroup, and then come back when you're ready. Don't put so much pressure into having to perform at such a high level. Even if you are a creative professional and you do have to show up to work every single day and do something creative, even if you don't feel like it, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform. Your best work will come, sure, when you are relaxed and vibing with whatever it is that you're working on, but don't put so much pressure on it. Just try as much as you can, but know that it will come, and your inspirations will strike. Something that I've been doing a lot, especially when I'm in a creative slump, is to actually just completely not think about the things that I'm supposed to be doing, and doing something completely different to my whatever the creative slump is for that craft. For me, that meant 3 months snowboarding. It meant going on a vacation and not thinking about things like YouTube and photography and Instagram and business and all that kind of stuff. It meant just enjoying myself for a little while and then coming back stronger than ever. And again, just take it easy. Don't be so hard on yourself. Get some inspiration from other areas of life. Throw yourself into other hobbies, other passions, other things you're interested in, and just let the creativity come to you organically, and you'll get yourself out of that slump. Just believe it. I'm sure it will happen to you. All right, the next question is, when do you feel most like your true self? Tough one. I don't know whether to answer this philosophically or just a little bit more lightheartedly. When I'm by myself, and also when I'm with my closest friends, and of course when I'm with my girlfriend. You know, I think even now when I'm talking to you on video, there is as much as I try to keep this authentic and really me, it is, you know, the 20 or 30% amplified version of me. You know, I have a little bit of stage presence, I have a little bit more energy in my replies and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, whenever I'm doing anything creative, when I'm on camera, it doesn't feel like my true self. I think when I'm taking photos in the element, sometimes it feels different to my own life, I guess. But yeah, you know, when I'm with my girlfriend and, you know, my close friends, I'm just joking around, being stupid and being dumb and, you know, making jokes and all the rest of it. So yeah, definitely when I'm with the closest people to me, and also when I'm alone. All right, the next one is, how many pins does Japan have on your Google map? A lot. Let me show you. So we're in Shibuya at the moment, and if we zoom out, this is Tokyo, and then this is all of Japan. It used to look more impressive before they updated the UI, but it is a limit. There is a limit on Google's pins as to how many stars it shows you on the phone. I think it's like 1,000 stars or something like that, and I'm well over 1,000 stars, so a lot. All right, next question. Genshin or ZZZ? ZZZ being Zenless Zone Zero, which is a new game that came out recently. Genshin for me, I think is the better game, but I'm playing ZZZ at the moment. The next question is, what has been your toughest adjustment since officially moving to Tokyo? Man, probably like I think the language barrier and how much you have to set up as, well, in my specific case anyway, how much I had to set up in terms of like the business and all of the visa stuff and, you know, apartment things, and then not speaking Japanese and not being like fluent in the language and having to rely on other people. I'm a very independent person, and having to like pay for other people to do the translations, or, you know, having to ask all these questions and put people out, and, you know, have to rely on so many different favors makes me feel a little bit strange, but it's what you have to do. Unfortunately, it is what it is. That has been most certainly my biggest adjustment, and one day I will pay everyone back for the very significant kindness that they've all shown me. All right, next question is, whatever happened to that awesome newsletter that you put out each week? So Creative and Process was a newsletter that I did every week that was more towards like the thoughtful kind of creative, and like some thoughtful kind of short written pieces delivered via email. It's actually kind of funny that you mentioned this, or I got this question, because I've been thinking about rebooting it, because there are just some things that in terms of content, they don't warrant a whole video. They don't warrant like a YouTube post. They don't warrant an Instagram post or anything like that, and it doesn't fit the format. You know, there's something about the written word that is so just different to everything else, and so I'm actually thinking of starting that up again. So watch this space. All right, the next question is a two-part question. The first part is, what do you think about camera manufacturers, except for Fuji, neglecting APS-C compared to the range of lenses dedicated to full frame? Is APS-C a dying form factor? Seems like Fuji is the only company that cares to dedicate resources to APS-C. This is a hard one, because sure, I'm a Sony ambassador, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have more insight into what goes on at the company in terms of product development and all those kind of things. So I can't give you like a factual answer. I can give you an opinion. I don't know how much that's worth, but I think there's something to be said about aspiration of APS-C versus full frame. A lot of people aspirationally want full frame because it's like, you know, the top tier and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, pros like myself actually want APS-C because, or sometimes anyway, because they're smaller form factors and the image quality is still amazing, and, you know, all these kind of things. And so I'm not sure in terms of like the general sentiment. I think companies are obviously speaking with their research dollars, you know. The companies are researching all of these lenses and stuff like that, and obviously they're making more for full frame. That leads me to assume that more people, more consumers are into the whole full frame thing versus the APS-C thing. I don't know. Again, it's just a guess. My guess is as good as yours, but you know, don't give it up. If you love the form factor, then by all means stick with the form factor, because APS-C is amazing, you know, especially nowadays with all of the recent APS-C cameras and stuff like that, especially from Sony. Image quality is stunning. Low light performance is great. You can adapt all of the full frame lenses with them. You know, it's nothing to be slept on, those APS-C bodies. They are really, really good. So check them out if you haven't already. And if you are an APS-C shooter, then perhaps you can, you know, chime in the comments and maybe give your own opinion on why potentially APS-C sees less popularity than full frame. The second part of the question is completely different. And it goes, where do you think social media is headed? Will short form video continue in perpetuity? With the amount of bots ever increasing, are we slowly losing our grip on what made the net so special before every man and their dog had an Instagram? Tough, man. You know, seeing where the social media landscape goes is, again, I can only, you know, guess. It's only conjecture. It's somewhat of an educated guess because I'm in the space, yes, sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean it means anything more than anyone else. As for the first part of that, I think short form video is like, at least for now, it's not going away. And, you know, as a creator, not necessarily a photographer, if you're a creator, then that still should be a part of your overall strategy. If you're just a photographer, then you don't need to do it, right? It doesn't, like, it shouldn't matter to you. It shouldn't concern you because that's not your medium. I know that it's very difficult to grow with just images on Instagram at the moment, but it is possible. You know, I do see and do follow quite a few photographers on Instagram who only post photographs, and they don't post videos at all, and they have stuck very, very hard to that. And so it is possible. You just need to find a way. As for what's coming up next, I couldn't tell you, unfortunately. I think the best thing is just to see what happens and adapt when it eventually comes. And yeah, just keep your eyes peeled. All right, so the next question is, are you happy? Yes, I am very, very happy at the moment. You know, it's taken me a while. If you asked me this question like 6 months ago, I probably would have said I'm still on the struggling phase, you know. At the moment, yeah, I am happy. You know, I have a lovely girlfriend, an amazing relationship. I live in the best city in the world, the best country in the world for me anyway. My business is doing well, my family and friends are doing well, and you know, I've gotten everything that I want right now, and it feels good. I'm very, very grateful for my life right now. So that also extends to you guys, and you know, following me for all of these years. And again, thank you so much for the 300,000 and for being with me this entire journey. I know, especially on YouTube, this journey hasn't been the easiest in the last 8 months, 9 months or so. But again, thank you very, very much for hanging around, and yeah, my gratitude is sky high for you guys at the moment. And thank you for hanging around till the end of the video. That's it for the questions for now. There were many, many more questions, but I can only pick so many, and I can only last out in this heat for so long. So I'm gonna end it there. Thank you so much. I will answer some more questions in the comments down below, so you know, right away, and I'll get to those when the video comes out. All right, I'll see you in the next one, but until then, get out there and make something that matters. Peace.